mi gente, and welcome to the first episode of Perreo University, hosted by me, Janice Torres, creator and host of the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast. Now, if you haven't seen the intro video for what this series is going to be about, essentially, we are fusing my two loves, which are reggaeton and finance. So I was thinking to myself, how can we highlight all of these incredible artists and stories in the urban Latin genre while also tying it into what I do as a business and a money coach, which is I help people work on their mindset and the strategies that they need in order to increase their income, reclaim their power, and create businesses that are centered around our uniqueness as a cultura, as Latinos. So I hope that you enjoy this series. On each episode, we're going to be talking about a specific artist, and we are kicking off today's episode with my favorite artist of this moment, right here, right now. His name is known as Rauw Alejandro.
Nos vemos y creo que un tesoro encontré. Que la verdad aún no lo proceso. Es que eres tal. La vida quiere reventar.
Rauw Alejandro Ocasio Ruiz, say that name 3 times, better known as Rauw Alejandro, was born January 10th, 1993 in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and he was raised in Canóvanas and Carolina, which are both in the northern part of the island. His father was a musician as well as his mother. And so, between the two of them, they really had a lot of musical influence on his childhood. He references artists like James Brown, Michael Jackson, and Elvis Presley as some of his biggest influences. And he remembers watching his dad perform and get really excited about watching Elvis Presley videos and James Brown videos and learning how to dance. So, one of the things that makes Rauw very unique in the genre of reggaeton and just Latin urban in general is the fact that he is an amazing dancer, which is not really common for the genre. And we're going to talk about why he decided to become a multifaceted artist versus just singing and rapping, which is what most of the guys in the genre do. So Rauw grew up not only in Puerto Rico, but also spent some time in the mainland, specifically in Florida. And he was influenced in Puerto Rico by our traditional music like salsa, merengue, reggaeton, but he was also influenced by dance hall and R&B. So you can see in his performances as an artist and just the type of music that he makes, he has a lot of fusion in his repertoire. So on an album, he'll have everything from a reggaeton to a kizomba to a dance hall to 80s synth pop and everything in between. So one of the things that fascinates me about him as an artist is that he doesn't allow himself to be boxed in, which is how I live my life too. And I think that's why I gravitate towards him as an artist so much. As a child, he was always in talent shows, doing things like dancing, singing, performing. He was always a musically inclined kid, but he actually was also pretty gifted athletically to the point where he had a 14-year career as an adolescent in soccer. So his original plan in life was to become the next Cristiano Ronaldo, a big soccer player. And it wasn't until kind of a life-changing moment that he had to make a pivot and say, hmm, I don't know if this is going to be the career for me. And we're going to hear more about that story. The fascinating thing about Rao's musical career is that it does come as a result of his soccer dreams kind of being extinguished. And it became sort of a coping mechanism that turned into now an incredible career. He's of the new generation of reggaeton and Latin music artists. And I would say that he's definitely someone who is starting to reach his prime as an artist. He's had 3 albums come out in the past 2 years, and so he's definitely in that grind mode to basically, try to take the top spot from Bad Bunny. We'll see if it happens. I absolutely love Rao and everything that he's doing. And I was super inspired to share more about his story and a lot of the lessons that he has talked about that have helped him get to a place where now he's arguably the number 2 biggest Latino urban artist in the world right now. And his latest album, Saturno, is honey, chef's kiss. If you haven't listened to it, it's like an 80s, 90s throwback to the golden era of reggaeton, of playero, of just like 80s synth pop and 90s punk rock. I mean, it's great. So please go and check it out. We're going to link it in the episode show notes. So, in this episode, we're going to be breaking down a 2020 interview that Rao did with a famous comedian named Chente Gidrak. And so, I love this interview because it's right at the cusp of when Rao is going to release his first album, full length feature from an actual like recording industry perspective versus doing it independently through platforms like SoundCloud. And the album is known as Afrodisiaco. I can't never say that word in Spanish correctly, but basically means aphrodisiac. And it's his first album. And it was basically his backstory about how he got to this place where now this is like his new reality. So definitely excited to dive into this interview, pull out all the gems. There are so many, y'all. So stick around and let's get into this interview analysis with Rao Alejandro.
Mi papá es músico. Yo digo que mi papá es gran, fue una de las personas que como que me inculcó la música desde chamaquito. Y mi mamá también era, mi mamá es corista, era cantante también. So, como que yo me crié con la música, so, siempre bien con la música, pero yo nunca vi la música como que
yo voy a vivir de esto.
Yo voy a hacer esto y voy a dedicarme a esto y voy a vivir. Yo lo veía como un fun y un hobby. No sé, no lo veía como que yo voy a hacer esto, ¿entiendes?
So in this first clip, Rao is talking about how he had a musical influence as a background. Like I mentioned before, his father was a musician and his mother was as well. But he never actually thought that this would be a viable career path. It was just a hobby for him, something he would do for fun at school and with his friends. And I think a lot of us can relate to this idea that there are things that we're super passionate about, but oftentimes we get talked out of pursuing these things because maybe society tells us like, hey, this is stupid, you'll never be successful, and it could be your parents or your loved ones. There are a lot of people with a lot of opinions that we have in life that sometimes can lead us on paths that we don't necessarily feel aligned with. And I know for me personally, I can absolutely identify with this idea that for a long time I was pursuing somebody else's version of what my life should look like, whether that's my parents or just like society in general. I actually wanted to go to culinary school at one point and I got talked out of it for a number of different reasons, just mainly because most people, when they think about working in the food industry, it's like long hours, not great pay. But ironically enough, my first business and the business that actually allowed me to quit my job was based around food. So I want to encourage you, if right now you have a crazy passion for something and you're like, I don't know, this sounds fucking weird. I don't know if this is actually going to work. Try not to let all of the external voices extinguish whatever is in your heart, because that could be the key for you and you just don't even know it because you're not allowing yourself to entertain what the possibilities are.
No, yo me lo llevo a veces para los tours y me lo llevaba conmigo y para los shows y se nota, entiende, que lo disfruta y me ve, entiende, se nota ese orgullo. Al principio estaba un poco como que, entiende, como que tímido a que me pasara algo malo, porque los papás siempre tienen esa, porque él vivió eso y me decía, cuidado con la fama.
No, yo imagino que también él debe tener en la mente bien presente como que perico, como que estos son los cocolos, eran todos unos fucking locos, cabrón, la verdad. Nadie me puede decir a mí lo contrario.
No, obligado, y me vi esa preocupación como que, espérate, que esto no se me vaya a descarrilar o algo así. Pero de momento vieron como que el enfoque y como que, espérate, esto no es una fiebre que le está dando a él de esas pasajeras,
esto es de verdad.
In that clip, Rao is talking about how he now takes his dad out on tours with him, but in the beginning of this whole journey of him pursuing music as a career, his parents were really concerned, and especially his father, because his father was already in the music industry, not as a super famous artist, but just enough to know that there's a lot of weird shit that happens in the music industry, specifically, around drugs and bad influence and women and all those things. And so initially his parents were concerned about him choosing that as a career path, but as they saw his focus and his discipline and his commitment to making this not just like some stupid hobby, but something that he actually wanted to take seriously and pursue as a career, they began to come around and understand that he was not going to allow himself to be subjected to a lot of the influence that can come from being in that industry. So I think it's just an important reminder that not everybody's gonna understand what you want to do, and most of the times, especially if you're Latino, your parents are already planning the worst case scenario whenever you tell them you're going to do something that they don't necessarily agree with. And it's really up to you to stay strong, make sure that you are holding yourself accountable to those goals and showing people that like you're serious about what you're doing, and eventually they will come around.
El 2015 yo empecé en
Ok.
SoundCloud y eso, con esa ola. Y
¿Quién tú sientes que son tus contemporáneos?
contemporáneo, Mike Tower, Álvaro Díaz,
Exacto. Sí, lo que
Joy,
pasa es
Joy
que
Santana,
hay una
Bray,
loquera.
un par de gente como que
hay una
Rafa
loquera
Pavón,
que Rafa Pavón.
Liano también, ¿entiendes? Estaban en esa vuelta del SoundCloud, Bad Bunny estaba también en
Exacto,
esa
pero
ola.
hay una loquera que pasa con las generaciones porque yo siento que tú eres de la misma generación de Bad Bunny.
Sí,
Pero de momento tú eres de los próximos, los que le pusieron el letrero de los próximos.
sí, porque yo digo que que como que todo empezaba a la misma de pum, pero a uno se le da más rápido que a otro, ¿entiendes? Como que el tiempo no es el mismo para todo el mundo, como que
¿A ti no te desesperó cuando algunos se dispararon bien al principio y tú como
Acho,
que,
sí,
diablo,
cabrón,
puñeta, ¿qué está pasando?
macho, sí, eso te pica un poco. Eso te pica un poco, pero te tiene que picar, porque si no te pica es porque no estás como que en esa mentalidad de querer ser, de competencia, como que esa
Claro,
mentalidad
claro.
de querer ganar la
Hambre.
carrera, ¿entiendes? Esa hambre, no tienes hambre. Estás ahí como que tirado para atrás, como que, ay, yo me voy a pegar después, tranquilo. No, yo a veces, yo me miraba al espejo y, ¿entiendes?
Sí,
Yo
loco.
lloraba, pero de coraje.
I love this clip that we just heard from Rao because in it, he's talking about how it feels to watch people that you started with at the same time make faster progress. And specifically, someone like Bad Bunny, which is of the exact same era as Rao. They all started at the same time. They both started around 2015, 2016, the SoundCloud era, if you will. That's like the cusp of the new generation of reggaeton artists. They were all utilizing SoundCloud to get their music out there. And while they started at the same time, Bad Bunny skyrocketed to fame, and Rao had to kind of watch that happen. And so the interviewer is asking him, does that fucking bother you? And he's like, yeah, that bothers me, but it also fuels me. I use it as motivation to keep going because I know that if that person can do it, I can do it too. But he was real about it. He's like, yo, I would look at myself in the mirror and like cry out of frustration, but I'm like, also, like the fact that I care that much means that I have to keep going. And so if you've ever let the comparison trap be the thing that stops you, I want to encourage you not to let it stop you, but to let it fuel you and to reinforce within you the idea that they did it and I can do this shit too. And so that's the message that I wanted to pull out of that clip because let me tell you, imposter syndrome, comparison, all of those things will absolutely derail whatever it is that you have going on for you. You can take inspiration from other people and watch them glow up and, feel a little salty about it, but also remind yourself that because they were able to do it, so should you.
Por ejemplo, ¿tú te pones nervioso antes de un show?
Entra la adrenalina.
Pues dicen que el día que no te cagues, ya mismo
Sí,
te quitas.
te
Porque esos nervios, esa ansiedad, en realidad lo que quiere decir es
Que
quiero
ya-
meterle cabrón para que ellos tengan un show
Full.
bueno. O sea, tú
Y como
estás
que-
respetando el público tanto que tú quieres darle un show cabrón.
Que amas tu arte, también lo que tú haces, como que sientas esa pasión y si no te causa ese nervio, yo digo que yo siempre Real, a veces me da náusea, a veces me tengo que ir para el baño.
¿Cuál es?
Pero el ritual en verdad mío, antes de la tarima, es como que hay gente que le gusta estar solo. Si yo me quedo solo, me desespero. Tengo que estar con gente close a mí y hablar y hacer chistes y como que distraer la mente y porque ya yo entreno antes de los shows. O ya yo tengo el entrenamiento, sé lo que voy a hacer. Pero antes del show necesito estar como que hablando, relajado, como que reírme, necesito, ¿entiendes? Como que estar con el corillo mío. Porque si me quedo solo, ese waiting time me mata, te lo juro.
¿Cuál
This clip is such a good reminder that if you are not feeling scared about something that you're doing, probably that's a sign that A, it's time for you to quit because you're just not about that life anymore, or B, you're just not challenging yourself to a point where you are actually like giving your all. And so Ra was talking about what he does to prepare for a show, and the interviewer is asking him like, do you still get nervous when you go on stage? And he's like, hell yeah, I get nervous. Sometimes I get sick to my stomach. And in order for me to cope with the anxiety before a show, I have to be around people. I can't be alone because the rumination begins, if you will, right? Like you just start thinking about all the shit that's going on. You start getting nervous. And so he really likes to keep his circle around him and really like keep himself mentally in a place where he's not focusing on, oh my God, there's a show. And I can totally relate to that because I know the first time that I did a speaking engagement, I was losing my damn mind. I was like hyperventilating. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. And, you know, lo and behold, it was fine. But the work up to that thing that you're doing that's very scary is real. And you have to find a way to not let those nerves derail what you're going to do or what you're trying to do. So it's a good reminder, you know, find the rituals, create the rituals that are going to allow you to focus, give your all, and know that it's perfectly normal to be nervous. That's actually a good sign that you are really challenging yourself and you're doing something that you care about because we don't get worked up about things we don't care about. So,
Papi, Rafa y yo serruchamos, él y yo, ¿entiendes? Hicimos un serrucho para pagar el video, lo tiró Apes, y Apes, que es bien para nosotros, papi, dale, ustedes tengan. Y nos fuimos por un spot por ahí en Piñones, grabamos, ¿entiendes? La neverita con par de cerveza.
Ah, el catering era una neverita con par de cerveza.
Chilo, y después se lo presenté a... Pues la gente se cree que cuando uno está filmado, es como que todo es bandeja de plata. Y en verdad no, en verdad tú tienes que provocar las cosas. Y nosotros hicimos eso teniendo una compañía de background, pero lo hicimos por nuestros cojones. Fue como que, mira, tenemos esto, tenemos el video y todo ya hecho, ¿qué van a hacer? Espérate, estos chamaquitos se mueven. Y así fue.
Yo creo que eso es el ejemplo perfecto. Porque hay una mezcla ahí. En ese ejemplo hay una mezcla de filmado pero operar independiente. Porque si tú tienes un producto, tú eres el artista, estás filmado y tú trabajas fuertemente, qué mejor testimonio de trabajar fuerte que, papi, hicimos un video, aquí lo tienes, ¿qué puñeta vas a hacer? O sea, yo creo en esto, ya tienes esto tú en bandeja de plata, se lo estás dando a él o a ella o a whoever.
No, y créeme, y lo van a trabajarlo, ¿entiendes? Lo van a hacer. Y hay muchos artistas que se creen, ¿entiendes? Se filmaron y se tiran para atrás y hay que
hay que apretar.
Y ahí es cuando más tienes que apretar, ¿entiendes? Yo digo, cuando estás filmado.
So by 2018, Rauw Alejandro was signed to a record company, Dwarves Entertainment. You'll always hear him shouting them out in his music videos and his songs. And this was a breakthrough moment for him. He was finally a signed artist. But he's talking about in the last clip about how even after getting signed, that's not really the time to chill. You can't just sit back as an artist and think that the record company is going to go and throw a bunch of money behind you and start making shit happen, because they're not. So he's talking about a collaboration that he did with a fellow artist named Rafa Pabon on a song named Tarde. And they had to bootstrap the whole video, like fundraising, getting their money together, getting the team together, location, shooting, the whole thing. They produced the entire music video and gave it to the record company, almost as like a, hey, you made a solid bet. I'm showing you my work ethic. Now here's the music video. Go and work your magic and distribute this. So he's talking about how important it is to not rest on your laurels just because you've reached that first pinnacle of success as an artist or as anybody, right? Sometimes I think what can happen for some of us is as we start to reach higher levels of quote unquote success, we think that that means like, yeah, I'm going to take a step back and chill. But I think it's important to remember that that's not actually usually the best thing to do. It's important to reinforce that success by continuing to work towards the next thing. That's not to say that you can't take breaks, right? But it's important not to lose the momentum. Once you start seeing things happening, keep shit going because it's going to take a while for you to see continuously improving results when you first reach that first milestone of success. So he's recommending to artists like, just because you got a record deal doesn't mean this is the time to chill. This is actually the time for you to double down and really, really prove your worth so that you can stand out above the crowd.
Vamos a hablar un poco de tu carrera como soccer, como futbolista.
Futbolista.
En tu Wikipedia, digo, no.
HC Wikipedia está mal garete, papi, hay que arreglarle eso.
Pero hay algo, no, hay
pero
algo,
real,
hay algo, hay
eso
algo.
es legit, eso es verdad.
Jugaste y por lo menos en Wikipedia dice que no llegaste a donde querías. Y en el Wikipedia dice que tú caíste en una depresión.
Eso es verdad.
¿Sí?
Sí, eso es
Porque
verdad.
tú querías ser Ronaldo.
Full, papi, CR7.
De verdad.
No, en verdad, el soccer, el fútbol es otra pasión mía. ¿Entiendes? Yo jugué en Quintana ahí casi toda mi vida, en Carolina. Papi, ese fue el deporte donde yo encontré como que yo hice todos los deportes y todo, en todo era una mierda. Excepto, papi, el soccer. Eso era lo mío, pum. Y, papi, yo le dediqué desde los 7 años hasta los 20, ¿entiendes?
Y tú te visualizabas
Jugué para
tu vida entera, el resto de tu vida jugando.
Sí, como que rompiendo barreras, porque en Puerto Rico son bien pocos los puertorriqueños que llegan a desarrollarse en ese deporte, en verdad son bien pocos. Y yo veía como una meta como que, papi, quiero ser el primer boricua que esté en el Real Madrid. ¿Entiendes? Que son metas difíciles. Y
Sí, cabrón, te pusiste muy adelante.
¿Entiendes?
Mira, que no
No
juega
era-
ahí, Irán Beaton.
no,
Un
papi,
2 para
era-
2, pero cabrón, Real Madrid, bájale dos,
papi, esa
gallimbo.
mentalidad, ¿entiendes? Y nada, le metí a la selección, jugué becado.
Viajaste.
Viajamos, ¿entiendes? Me fui para Estados Unidos, allá jugué la tercera división, la PDL, que allá está la MLS. La MLS es la 1, la USL
cabrón,
es
en
la
verdad
2.
le metiste.
Papi, sí, cabrón. Tour por casa de la vieja para que vea todos los
Trofeo y
trofeos y la
medalla y
foto
mierda.
y los-
Dale, siguen el. Para la gente que sabe, van a tripear con esto. ¿Dónde más jugaste?
Nada, la PDL fue la última.
¿Qué posición jugababas?
Yo era delantero izquierdo, extremo
Ah,
izquierdo.
claro, chachas, esos son bien importantes.
¿Entiendes? Cabrón. Cabrón, y entonces-
Anotaba, esos son de los que anotan gol.
Sí, papi, goleadores, ¿entiendes? Y obviamente, pues allá, pues, este es otro mundo. Y ahí, papi, te encuentras con los brasileños, con los de Argentina, con los mexicanos. En Florida, imagina, yo estaba en Florida. Y, papi, es otro nivel de juego. Entró en otra vuelta más profesional y cabrón, me pasaban unas cosas que era algo de que, papi, no, ¿entiendes?
¿Cómo qué?
Como que, papi, yo entrenaba todos los días, a las 5 de la mañana, todos los días. En las prácticas era una máquina. Papi, en el juego pasaba algo que no ejecutaba como tenía que ejecutar.
Frío olímpico.
No sé qué me pasaba, papi, que me hacía un pase y estoy frente a la portería para anotar y mandaba la bola por el carajo. ¡Pum! Psicológicamente eso se va trabajando. Y obviamente también me pasaron unas cosas personales en la familia y en la vida, ¿entiendes? La vida de uno, de lo económico y qué sé yo qué. Papi, como que se me vino todo encima.
Te frustraste.
Y tuve un tryout para los Orlando City, que era un, ¿entiendes? Un equipo súper duro ahora.
Profesional que pagaba.
Profesional. Entonces me recomendó un coach de allá. Y como que, no sé, tenía mucha presión de que, ¿entiendes? Tenía que representar. Igual, papi, me fue pésimo, ¿entiendes? De que,
Metiste el gol en el lado que no era.
¿entiendes? Pues batí la bola y le rayé la cabeza a una doña. No, ¿entiendes? Como que, ¿sabes? Cuando algo como que no está para ti la vuelta. que
El
tú dices,
universo diciéndote,
ajá, el
mira,
universo,
no,
papi,
esto no es.
está para ti y tú quieres, pero no. Papi, Y ahí fue que yo entro en la música para como que para
salir del hoyo mental.
mental. Yo hacía música por mi cuenta para liberar el estrés. Y así mismo fue que decidí volver para PR. Estaba por allá y, papi, no, yo toco...
¿Qué edad tú tienes?
Tengo 27 ahora.
No, pero cuando está pasando esto.
Yo, fue... hecho como a los 20, 21.
Sí, que también... Ya se te está yendo el tren del fútbol.
Sí,
ya es como que, ¿entiendes? Papi, si no le metí en los Orlando, yo creo que hay que aceptar la realidad de que esto papi, no va a pasar.
Yo podía virar a Puerto Rico y jugar en equipo acá, pero la paga aquí es una mierda en el deporte, ¿entiendes? Y yo quería vivir de eso. So, era como que, hablo, ¿entiendes? Y literalmente yo pensaba así, se me está yendo la guagua porque para tú estar en un club de esos bien rankeado tienes que entrar ya a los 17, 18 años.
Y a los 20 ya estás viejo.
Ya a los 20 tú eres un viejo real en el fútbol.
Ok.
Y, pisé Puerto Rico y él no que lo hice yo. Pisé Puerto Rico y al otro día yo estaba metido en un estudio, ¿entiendes? Con Coya. Y ahí fue que empezó la vuelta.
Pero antes de esto, ¿tú habías experimentado algo? ¿Tú habías pisado un estudio antes? ¿Habías, qué sé yo, hecho pistas?
No, nada. Yo
wow, eso salió de la nada.
Yo bailaba. Pero bailaba por mi cuenta y siempre en la escuela siempre estaba metido en talent show y siempre estaba con la música encima, siempre cantaba por mi cuenta, era algo más personal. Pero después, cuando piso Puerto Rico, decido como que meterle.
Okay, there was a lot of information to break down in that clip. So, first of all, when I was talking about his soccer dreams and his soccer career as a kid and as an adolescent, he basically started playing when he was 7 and made it up until about the age of 20. And he was talking about how initially his big goal was to become a star like Cristiano Ronaldo. He wanted to be the first Puerto Rican soccer player to reach Real Madrid, which has never happened. Like, soccer is not a huge sport in Puerto Rico, but it was the only sport for him that he felt that he excelled at. He said he tried every other sport and he was trash, but soccer was his thing. And so he progressively, increased his skill set, made it all the way to Orlando to audition for the Orlando City team, which I think is part of the MLS or Major League Soccer. And his audition, if you will, went terribly. And so he's talking about how, up until that point, he'd been having great training sessions, but then when it was time to actually showcase his skills to scouts and coaches, he kept having like basically like meltdowns, like things just weren't playing out. And that audition for Orlando City was basically like the last straw for him. That he's like, damn, I don't really know if this is for me. And, if you know anything about sports, especially something like soccer, like if you're not making it into the major leagues by the time you're like 18 years old, you're pretty much considered an old head, right? Like, you can't be out here 25 years old trying to join a soccer team. So he realized, I don't think this is the thing for me. I keep trying, I keep trying, I keep trying, and it's not working and it's not happening, and things keep getting in the way. And then on top of that, he was having personal issues at home. The family was having financial issues. He's away from his family. They're in Puerto Rico. He's in Orlando. And so he had to make the decision, this is not happening for me. And he went back to Puerto Rico in a depression and started utilizing music as a coping mechanism. So he literally stepped off the plane and stepped into a studio. Even though he had never considered doing this professionally, it was the only thing that was bringing him any kind of comfort. And so I find that really, really, really relatable, because for me, I left a 14-year engineering career. And for many years, I just felt like this is not the thing that I want to do. It's killing me softly. I want to do something else. And I felt like I kept running into roadblocks too with my professional career, with managers always giving me an excuse about why I wasn't ready for a promotion, job hopping and never feeling satisfied. And eventually I just started turning to building my own businesses and creating my own job that actually fueled me and filled me up to the point where I could quit my corporate career. And that's what I did in 2021. So I totally relate to this whole story about like feeling like you're trying to swim upstream without a freaking paddle towards a goal that you don't even necessarily know is what you actually want. And then kind of finding yourself having to be forced to reinvent yourself in your life. Not necessarily in a way that you planned, but in a way that produces absolute magic.
Es que yo siempre como que No sé, yo siempre pensaba en grande. Yo decía como que ya, qué sé yo. Oye, en mi familia siempre tuvo muchos problemas económicos, ¿verdad? Yo crecí con eso, como que siempre era todo el problema, papi. No hay chavo, no hay chavo. Y papi, un aborrecido, no hay chavo, no hay chavo. Y yo siempre me visualizaba como que, pues haciendo chavo, ¿entiendes? Como que cómo yo voy a cambiar ese problema en mi familia, en mi vida, como que. Y yo lo veía como que, pues, deporte, ¿entiendes? Son salidas que gigantes, papi, o la música. En la universidad realmente, papi, médico, yo estoy un pelado, papi, pues que tengo que pedir préstamos. So, voy a recuperar ya los 40 años, ¿entiendes? Voy a hacer ver la plata, en verdad que no es. Yo veía todo mi
Tuviste la visión del
papi, estuve a
futuro.
punto de así meterme a vender, ¿entiendes? Lo que sea, como que son como que son cosas que le pasa a la juventud. Y pues me meto ahí, fine, me sale un par de pesos y después o me busco un tiro o voy preso o qué. Ok, pum. So, uno buscaba como que yo observando el plano de lo que hay, yo digo, pues, o la otra bala que me queda, que yo siento que maybe es la
Bye.
música.
Si no se te hubiera dado la vuelta de la música, tú te visualizas que quizás hubieses vendido, o sea, estuvieses
Papi,
trabajando en la calle, algo ilegal.
Yo trabajé, maybe. Yo trabajé en Hacho, yo que el recorte de grama, almacén, cajero, restaurante, ¿entiendes? Yo le metía a un montón de cosas, como que antes ¿entiendes? De poder establecerme en la música, so, como que, ¿entiendes? Que yo era un joseador, siempre he
Sí,
sido un
sí, sí.
joseador. Yo de alguna manera lo iba a conseguir.
So, do you ever have like dreams that everybody else thinks are just absolutely insane, but you're just like, I'm gonna figure this shit out? Because that's exactly what I was talking about in this last clip. So the interviewer's asking him, like, okay, so basically you decided to go from one crazy ass goal of becoming a soccer player to another crazy ass goal of becoming a famous musician, as if like those are just like super easy things to accomplish. And Rao talks about his motivation being that, like, I really could not afford to do something mediocre. And I'm like, yes, honey, I totally relate to that because, when you come from nothing, as he talks about, like his family couldn't help him financially. They were going through their own financial stuff. He was enrolled in college. He was going to have to take out student loans. And he's like, I don't even feel like this is the thing for me. I'm going to take out a bunch of loans to then hopefully have a career that gives me financial security 40 years from now. And it's like, I'm either going to create this impossible dream and make it a reality, or I'm going to end up on the street selling drugs or in jail or doing some stupid shit. And I can't afford to do that. So he talks about how he basically decided, like, failure is not an option. I'm going to hustle my way here. I'm going to work multiple jobs if I have to. And we going to make it happen because this is the last bullet in the chamber. That's literally what he says. This is the last bullet I have in the chamber. So we gonna make this shit happen. And so I could totally relate to that as a first gen kid. You know, I think a lot of us initially want to seek out that financial stability because we don't necessarily grow up with it. But after a while, like, that's not the satisfying thing for most of us. It's just like, okay, cool, have a stable job and like a stable paycheck, but like, is this actually my purpose? Is this actually like what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life? And that can lead to a lot of existential crises. I know it did for me. So even if your dreams sound fucking nuts, what do you have to lose? I mean, really, that's the message. What do you have to lose? If you got nothing, if no one's coming to save you, it's up to you to save yourself.
Hay gente que full, tú tienes gente negativa que no, de un principio dicen tú eres un loco, pero hay gente que tú sabes que mira, papi, la tiene, sigue metiéndole, que yo pienso que lo va a lograr. Y
¿Y
ahí,
cómo,
pues,
con qué dinero tú estabas financiando? Porque
papi,
bien temprano tú empezaste a grabar cosas para SoundCloud.
yo empecé a los 21, me empecé pum, en la música. Y los panas míos me decían como que, Acho, deberías de, como que ya no lo veas como un hobby, como que ahora que tienes, ¿entiendes? Como que vamos a darle.
¿Tu amigo?
Los panas míos me decían como que yo tenía el potencial, ¿entiendes?
Wow, cabrón. Eso está
Darle
cabrón.
pescabicho. No, en verdad, pues, y decía como que, pues, qué sé yo, vamos a darle, ¿entiendes? Como que yo estaba en la mentalidad, pues, vale, si se me da, se me da. Si no, pues, como que lo intenté. ¿Entiendes? Me saqué esa pullita de cuando llega viejo, diablo, no Lo pude haber hecho y no lo hice. El primer video que yo hice me costó $500. Yo no tenía $500. Yo tenía como 150. ¿Entiendes? Y papi, había que buscar los $500. Aparecieron, ¿entiendes? Y papi, serruchando
Diablo,
mara,
cabrones, de verdad. Props.
real.
Amigos, de verdad.
Y que si una grabación, que si 150 un tema. Diablo, papi. El video de 500, el tema 150. Era un proceso, pero estás enfocado. Tú estás, papi.
Apostando a ti.
Apostando a ti. Tú estás 2 meses sin janguear, sin hacer nada, papi. Yo trabajaba en Aldo. Papi, Aldo de los Outlets, para trabajar en Aldo de las Américas, para después ir a Guess y trabajar allá. Papi, yo estaba en el movimiento por ahí. Y, papi, esa era la rutina. Imagínate, cuando yo digo que esa mentalidad un año completa.
Listen, we all need friends like Raúl Alejandro's crew, okay? Because he's talking about how they literally were helping him finance his career. They believed so much in him that they were like, bro, you need to take this seriously. Like, we're going to help you get there. And his crew became his official, like, company, which is called Los Sensei. That's basically his record company, if you will, that's all composed of all his friends that all literally like have become sound engineers and producers and musicians and all those things, and they've built their career around him. And yo, let me tell you, okay, like we need friends like that, okay? If you have a bunch of negative ass people around you who are basically like shitting on your dreams and telling you you're crazy and not supporting anything that you're doing, please go and dispose of those human beings, because what you actually need if you want to accomplish your goals is a crew of people who are about that life, who are there to support you, who are there to give you resources that you may not have, and who are there to like support you mentally, physically, when you're trying to do something that nobody else has done before. All right. So get rid of the trash ass friends and family that is like shitting on your dreams, and go and create a group of friends, chosen family that literally supports you and helps you get to your goal. That's so important. So important.
Yo llegué a un momento que dije, voy a tener que cambiar la estrategia porque yo quiero hacer esto. Yo quiero llevar el baile, quiero llevar el canto y quiero ser esta figura, papi, de showman. Pero tú te tienes que pegar por la música primero para que entonces te vayan a hacer caso. Así dije como que yo voy a darle un stop a los bailes, me voy a enfocar en meter los temas. Y cuando yo meta los temas, ahí como que...
de verdad, esa fue la estrategia.
Ahí fue mi estrategia porque... Real, ¿de qué vale yo bailar la tarima cuando estoy cantando un tema que nadie se lo sabe?
O que no hay nadie viendo.
Ajá, o que no hay nadie viendo. Eso es como que dije, espérate, no, déjame cambiar la estrategia de meterme al estudio, analizar el juego, analizar lo que estoy haciendo y enfocarme en hacer buena música para entonces, pum, entrar por lo menos en la primera, no en las ligas mayores, yo estaba, papi, en la escena de lo que estaba pasando. Pum, entré en la escena.
Subir un escalón.
Un escalón, exacto. Que empiezan a llegar un par de parisitos, par de pesos, que sé yo, 500, 200 pesos por pari, que es lo que me pagaban antes. Pero ya está llegando algo. Y ya con eso pues volví otra vez y invertía. Y llegó un momento en que yo mismo dije, diablo, no estoy evolucionando en el baile, estoy estancado, estoy charreando. Y eso es lo primero que yo reconocí. Y le di el stop. Pero por lo menos los videos, que sé yo, que yo estaba viendo que estaba repitiendo... Es como los chistes, cabrón.
Ajá. Repitiendo que pasos.
Pasos. Y tú no te estás viendo como que... No estás creando algo y... Ay, me enfoqué en la música y ahora que tengo chavo, pues déjame... ¿Entiendes? Déjame coger buenos bailarines o déjame entrenar mejor hasta que poco a poco así mismo fue. Y hoy día, pues, yo entreno con Fifi, que es el coreógrafo y bailarín de Chris Brown.
¿De verdad?
¿Entiendes? Como que ya es otro level. Pero es el hecho de tú reconocerte que lo estás haciendo mal o que no estás en el nivel y espérate, déjame encerrarme para entrenar para luego volver otra vez. Déjame no entrarle a la gente con eso, déjame esperar a que la gente me pida a mí o llevarlo a mi vuelta. Por ejemplo, yo iba a Mamá Juana a cantar o a Live o algo así, yo no estaba bailando ahí. Decía, este no es el momento de bailar. Déjame cantar y tirar las canciones para las baby Pero yo sé que en la justa yo puedo bailar, porque la gente se lo va a vacilar. Eso era como que había que buscar el tiempo y el momento perfecto para hacer las movidas.
This next message is for especially my entrepreneurs who want to be doing all the things. Y'all want to be doing the most. And you're like, why is nothing working? Well, let's take some advice from this clip. So, Rao, as you know him today, is an incredible all around musician, sings, dances, does all the shit, right? But when he was first starting out, he realized that that strategy was not going to work because he was trying to do something so different that a lot of people just did not understand at the time, that he was not being taken as seriously as an artist because he was doing a lot. He was doing the dancing, he was doing the singing, he's doing a lot, especially in the genre of reggaeton. It's not common to see somebody who's a multi-dimensional artist that way. You were either a rapper or you were a singer. Nobody was dancing, even though the music is meant to be danced, but that's neither here nor there. So he basically was like, "Look, I was trying to do it all in the beginning, and I feel like it was too much. People were just confused. So I decided that I was going to chill on the dancing for a little bit and focus on the music, because what the hell is the point of being a great freaking dancer to a song that nobody knows?" So he said, I was chilling out with the dancing. I was like, let me focus on creating bomb ass music that people are actually going to know, that they already are like becoming part of my community. They're supporting my work. And then after I've reached that next level of success, like once I have that solid fan base of people who are invested in me because of the music, because they're vibing with the music, I am a musician after all, then I can start to introduce the dance, but not just the way that I was doing it before. I'm going to invest now. I'm going to invest in a choreographer. I'm going to make sure that I am not doing the same shit over and over again. I am challenging myself not only as a musician now at this point, but as a dancer. And that's what took him to the next level of success. He focused first on the foundation. As a musician, your music's got to be popping, right? Once the music is popping, then you can start adding other shit. Then you can start doing the collabs. Then you can start adding the song, if you will. But you have to have a solid foundation. And let me tell you, this is for entrepreneurs, okay? Stop doing the most. Find the thing that works. Find the thing that people start associating with you. And once it works, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Prove out the theory. And then eventually you can start sprinkling in some additional offerings. Maybe you can start, letting out more of your creative ideas, but you got to find the foundation that sticks. Do that. Then you can move on to the next thing.
Al principio como que la universidad, papi, la universidad, pero como la universidad la pagaba yo,
¿Dónde tú estabas?
yo estaba en la UPR, de Carolina.
¿Qué estabas estudiando?
Cabrón, un montón de cosas.
Ah,
Yo me cambié de concentración como 5 veces y lo último que estudié era finanzas y por poco termino, pero me explotó la vuelta en la música.
imagínense eso. Raúl, como que entra al banco, sí, buena. Mi nombre es Raúl Alejandro, siéntese por aquí. ¿Qué tiene pensado hacer con sus finanzas? Ah, diablo, cabrón.
Tacho, turismo, biología,
Y en
ciencia.
todo tú decías como que esto no es, esto
Tacho,
no es.
pero, papi, estaba botando los chavos porque en la universidad es una inversión, ¿verdad? A menos que tú no tengas beca o algo así. Tuve beca, pero boté los chavos,
Sí,
¿entiendes?
sí, sí.
Y estudiar está bien, no está mal, yo no digo que está mal, pero maybe no era lo mío, ¿entiendes? Y maybe hay gente que se siente igual que yo.
Oof, this last clip hits home because Rao's talking about how, I think especially as like first gen kids, we are so pressured into going to college. And he's talking about how, that's what his family envisioned for him. He changed his major like 5 times, did biology, tourism, ended up his last major was finance, which is hilarious to me. But he couldn't finish. The music career started exploding, and he's like, I made a choice. I'm not going to throw my money away on student loans for a career that I honestly don't even want. And he has mentioned in other interviews that he'd be like sitting in class just like writing songs. So he's like, what the hell's the point of this, right? But making that decision is tough on your family, especially if they have visions of you, walking across that stage and collecting your degree. And he says it. He's like, there's nothing wrong with going to school, but you don't necessarily need to do that in order to be successful. And I know now as an entrepreneur, I did the traditional thing. I went to school, I got 2 degrees, and those degrees provided me with opportunities to, establish myself financially. But it was the thing that was for me. And that's okay that you may be having thoughts around, hey, I need a career change, or maybe this thing that I'm studying, I don't want to do it anymore. It's okay. You have permission to change your mind. Okay. So I want to leave you with this message. Okay. Rao's story is one of just pure inspiration for me because it's such a normal story. It's just like you come from a normal family, you have big dreams, the first one gets derailed, you're trying to follow the traditional path, it's not working out for you. You decide to do something crazy, your family's stressed out about it because you're like, guys, I'm going to drop out of school and go and become an artist, right? But you start putting in the work, you start taking yourself seriously, you start making serious investments of time, energy, money. You surround yourself with a crew of people who actually believe in you, and you do scary shit over and over and over again. And you don't allow other people's success in your arena to derail your individual path because it's coming for you. Okay. So I hope that you enjoy this first episode of Perreo University. I had so much fun putting this together, and I would love to know in the comments who's the next artist that you want me to profile. Let me know. I have a ton of different ideas, and there's so many stories within the reggaeton and Latin urban community that, I mean, this series could go on forever. But I hope that you are left with some serious inspiration on this conversation. And if you want to find out more about me and the work that I do with financial literacy for the Latino community, you can check me out at YoQuieroDineroPodcast.com. And you can find the podcast Yo Quiero Dinero wherever you listen to podcasts or right here on YouTube. Until next time, stay perreando.